We need, and I can let people into this meeting. Let's see if we've got everybody here. Looks like they're all here. Okay, so are we on the record?
Yes, if you go to participants, right there, yeah.
Looks like everybody's here.
Okay.
But we are on the record?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good afternoon, everybody. I can see that we have Mr. Reynolds here. And we also have Ms. Gonzalez, who's also appearing. And Ms. Gonzalez, it looks like you were able to get your video working, so that's good news. Is everybody able to hear me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. So let's go ahead and call the case. Laura Gonzalez versus the City of Boulder. It's an appeal of a suspension that was issued to Ms. Gonzalez by the city manager. Ms. Gonzalez filed an appeal to that suspension. The hearing will go forward under section 131 of the Boulder Revised Code, the quasi-judicial review process, in which the court is appointed as a hearing officer to decide whether the suspension was proper. What I will be indicating to you, Ms. Gonzalez, is just the process is a formal process, obviously with the judge presiding, and it's a recorded process. But the goal of this type of hearing is to try to get as much information in front of the court as possible, with some limitations. The rules of evidence can be applied and will be applied to some extent. But as a general rule, what we're looking for is to try to get as much information about the circumstances surrounding this so that I can make an informed decision. Nonetheless, there will be a process, and I want to make sure that everybody understands what the process will look like. Mr. Reynolds, who represents the city, will go first in the sense of if he wants to give an opening statement, he can give a brief opening statement. An opening statement is really just to outline what the issues might be and what the evidence that I might hear in the trial. It's not a full rendition of all of the evidence. It's just a summary. But Mr. Reynolds has the opportunity to do that. You also have the opportunity to give an opening statement and to just outline what the issues that you think are going to be relevant to this hearing are and what evidence you think will be brought before me in the hearing. Keep in mind that an opening statement is not evidence. It's just a summary or an outline. Because it's not sworn and under oath, I can't consider it as fact. And that's why I say it should be a very brief summary, because it won't be something that I get to consider as fact. Once each side has had an opportunity to give an opening statement, then we will turn to the evidence presentation. Mr. Reynolds can call witnesses to testify. You'll have a chance to ask questions of his witnesses. When he's done, he will rest his direct examination. He'll rest that, and then it'll be your turn to do cross-examination of any witness that he calls. And then when Mr. Reynolds is done presenting his case, he's going to rest the entire case. And then it'll be your opportunity, if you choose to do so, to put on evidence. That will be a time for you. If you'd like to testify, you can testify, keeping in mind that if you decide to testify, you'll be subject to cross-examination by the prosecutor or by the city attorney. And if there are witnesses that you would like to call, then you would have the opportunity to call those witnesses as well. One thing that I like to share with people who are representing themselves is you will hear occasionally an objection. Mr. Reynolds may render an objection to evidence. If you'll pause, if you are speaking at the time, if you'll pause to allow him to state the objection, and the same would be true for him. If you have a legal objection to the admissibility of some type of evidence, for example, if Mr. Reynolds was to ask a witness about something that was not relevant to these proceedings, you could say objection relevancy, and then it would be up to me to decide whether that testimony could come in or not come in. And the same could be true with respect to exhibits. But try to keep your objections short and just to the point as to why you think it's objectionable. And keep in mind, when I admit evidence, it doesn't mean that I'm saying that evidence is accurate. It just means I'm allowing that evidence to be admitted. The weight that I give to evidence will depend on how I view the evidence as a whole. So that's one thing that I like to point out to parties before we get started. And because Mr. Reynolds will go first, he'll call his witnesses, and then you'll go second, like I said. At the end of the hearing, and whether we finish the hearing today, I don't know. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, whether we'll actually get all the evidence in and closing arguments. But if we do, there'll be closing arguments. I'll ask everybody to keep their closing arguments to about 10 or 15 minutes. But just like opening statement, closing argument is an opportunity for the parties to argue in favor of the point that they want me to address. Mr. Reynolds can argue that he's proved by a preponderance of the evidence that the suspension was proper. You can argue that he's failed to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the suspension was proper. And then that will be it. Well, in the other case that we just wrapped up earlier today, I advised the parties, and I expect this to be the same on this case, that it's likely that when the evidence is done being presented and after closing arguments have occurred, I'm likely to take the matter under advisement so that I can look at all of the information that's been presented, consider the exhibits, and do any legal research that I need to do in writing to do a written order in connection with the case. So I anticipate that'll be the same with this. I am aware that we're on a time frame issue here because of the fact that the suspension that was issued, although your suspension, I believe, is for 60 days, it's still in an area where I'd like to get this resolved quickly for the parties, and I'm aware of that. Before we get started, I wanted to see if you have any questions about the process, Ms. Gonzalez.
Not at the moment.
Okay, if questions arise during the hearing or trial, feel free to, if someone's speaking, obviously just get my attention. And as soon as that person stops speaking, if you've got a question, feel free to ask it and I'll be happy to answer it if I'm able to do so.
I do have a question actually, because I'm still working on getting the body worn footage of specific dates.
Right?
Since I'm not gonna get that today, is that something that can be allowed to be submitted later?
It's a good question. As a general rule, any type of video or photographic evidence that gets admitted has to be admitted through somebody's testimony. They have to say this is what it is. They lay a foundation for the admissibility of that evidence. So without that evidence that you might want, there will be a question as to whether it's going to be admissible or not. But beyond that, there also is that foundation issue. So it would be necessary for me to have the evidence presented during the hearing. I know there's a possibility that we won't finish today, and then we could reschedule the rest of the hearing, and perhaps by that date you will have the body worn camera footage that you'd like to offer for admissibility. And so perhaps we address that question that you have a little bit later in the proceedings, because the prosecutor does go first. He's going to call his witness to testify. And it may be that we're not finished by the end of the day. And then whatever information you might be able to gather might be able to be at the continued part of the hearing.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Okay, we can address it again at the end of the day here today. Any other questions before we get started? Doesn't look like Ms. Gonzalez. Mr. Reynolds, any issues that we need to address before we start today?
No, Your Honor.
Would you like to give an opening statement, Mr. Reynolds?
We would waive our opening statement.
And Ms. Gonzalez, would you like to give an opening statement?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
My name is Laura Gonzalez. I have lived and worked in Boulder since July 2011. I have always participated in my civic duty by attending city council meetings for over a decade and witnessed the way city council restricts our speech, for example, from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. And now in this case, being impartial in who they consider as who interrupts and what political ideology they have. I have been speaking at city council chambers during open comment, asking for the city to pass a ceasefire resolution and to divest from companies that are making monetary profit from the genocide happening in Gaza and the West Bank for 14 months now, which is a local issue as my taxes go to arm the state of Israel, a foreign entity, and the city has investments such as stocks and bonds in their portfolio, which uses our tax dollars, in companies that perpetuate not just the genocide, but the legal occupation, the international crime of apartheid, stated by the ICJ, and the current genocide of the Palestinian territories, such as the companies as Cisco, Google, Microsoft, HP, and Amazon. I have been using my First Amendment right to free speech, which is such a privilege, and I'm so grateful to have that right. My freedom, and not just my First Amendment right as freedom of speech, but also as freedom of religion in this matter, freedom of assembly, and freedom of protest at the City Council chamber for over 14 months now around this topic. As a neurodivergent person, which is considered a cognitive disability, most of my behavior has been followed by the behavior that I have seen other City Council members, audience members, and speakers where I believe that it is allowed behavior since no warnings nor current rules apply to them. I am not saying this to get away from not following the rules, like the example of getting a ticket because of traffic violation. I get a ticket, but my neighbor doesn't. And that doesn't mean that I'm not violating the traffic rules. I am saying this because these rules are not clear and consistent as our city traffic violation rules are. This inconsistency, lack of clarity, and the methods of presentation of the rules of decorum to the audience can be presented in my evidence. When I say they are not consistent, it is not because they changed to the ballot and unbiased changes on June 2024 and January 2025. If justly allowed, I will show you, Your Honor, how the City Council has failed to update us of their new changes, and also they have presented us with old rules after they made those amendment rules. So it's very unclear for me to follow, especially with my cognitive disability. Also, if allowed, Your Honor, I can demonstrate that the City Council is applying these rules in an unfair manner that violates my First Amendment right of freedom of speech, my freedom of religion, my freedom of assembly, and my freedom of protest. The mayor tends to ignore these rules to a different political ideology, different than mine. That, Your Honor, does not follow the restrictions that are allowed to be applied to our First Amendment right. The restrictions, as we know, Christopher Reynolds mentioned that earlier, they must be content neutral, narrowly tailored, fairly applied, and provide alternate routes to allow my freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of protest to still be heard. I have seen how the mayor has allowed many speakers, usually white men with a pro-Israeli political ideology, to speak over their time limit of 2 minutes. Again, this can be demonstrated in my evidence, but became strict when a different political ideology and religious ideology such as mine is presented, which is pro-Palestinian political ideologies and my indigenous beliefs. Also, I have seen how how Islamophobic language has been used, and the mayor nor the city attorney nor anyone actually prevents any of this language compared to the language that they tend to interrupt. Now, I am facing a suspension of 60 days, longer than the other person suspended, alleging that I stood in a manner that blocks the view of others and fire code access to a walkway. That's the first allegation against me. In the same evidence submitted by the prosecutor, you will see that multiple people stood in the exact same spot, blocking people's views, and in the exact same spot where it was alleged that I was blocking a fire code hallway. Also, in my other evidence, if admitted, there are multiple times where pro-Israeli speakers did the same, which is where I, due to my disabilities, and not just that, but lack of clarity, presentation, accessibility, and inconsistency of the council to do their due diligence to announce and implement these rules in a clear, direct, written, and oral manner, I assume that same behavior was allowed. However, in this past behavior, none of those audience members and speakers were either asked to stop their behavior because they're causing obstruction, blocking fire access codes, or impeding government operations and jeopardizing the safety of others, violating Rule 10 and 20, like I was punished for. So that's something else I want to prove, that, this punishment is harsh and it is trying to silence my freedom of speech. And in the same evidence, Your Honor, I will be able to demonstrate to you that I did attempt to follow the rule, as I did sit down when the speaker at the time was interrupted by the mayor without giving her time back, as he usually does to pro-Israeli speakers and other political ideologies other than ours. The second accusation, Your Honor, was that I did not leave after repeated requests. Yet, again, in the past, we have been allowed to be in chambers while the members go into their safe recess space. The city council members I'm referring in this time. That has not been an issue in the past. Also, a previous speaker who was emotionally and visibly distressed requested a minute due to the unfair implementation of inconsistent, unclear, and inaccessible rules of decorum, and denying her right to speak for full 2 minutes. And actually, when she asked for that minute, the officer consented for us to have a minute, which is why I stayed. At the same time we stayed, a pro-Israeli audience member was yelling in an intimidating way, saying how he knew where some of us lived and calling another community member who is Jewish a knee-trembling Jew. That's also in the evidence that the prosecutor has submitted. During this time, a second officer asked us to wait there to get clarification, as we were getting conflicting information if we were going to be able to testify virtually downstairs or in person or in the chambers. So the second officer asked us to stay. This will also be shown in that evidence. At that point that I received an answer, finally, because we kept getting inconsistent and conflicting information about how we would testify that day, I went downstairs and again, I was given verbally incorrect and conflicting information. That's really hard for me to process with my cognitive disability. So I went back upstairs to get clarification as I've seen others do without any consequence, like where I have been applied. And I have to emphasize that my disability does require direct, clear, consistent communication in a timely manner and reader whenever, that is possible. The third allegation against me is that the mayor asked me to conclude my remarks at the 2-minute mark, which I did not do. Again, I did not do this because there is a mountain load of evidence in almost every meeting since November 2023, and I can show you that, where the mayor has allowed other audience members to speak over their 2 minutes. I am concerned about the bias that the mayor and city council members are using to make their rule change decisions. They tend to change the rules without presenting them to the audience in a proper, consistent, and clear manner. And I can show you that every single meeting almost. And every time pro-Palestinian political ideology seems to make them uncomfortable, that's usually when they change the rules. Even though our behavior with this political ideology is usually following the behavior of the opposition political ideology. So I am very concerned that I see this behavior role model by the opposite political ideology. They do not get suppressed. They do not get called out. They do not get suspended by the council, while we do get suppressed. So my goal today is not only to prove that this punishment is harsh, it is not proper, it is not fair, it is biased, but also the restrictions that the city council is doing, they do not meet the only legal restrictions that the First Amendment is allowed, which is one, not content neutral. They're being unbiased. It is not narrowly tailored, and they do not provide us the same accessible and equal methods for us to provide an alternate method of communication, because when we are suspended and I can only speak remotely, we are not allowed to do a presentation or allowed to have our flags or any of the signs. Also, Your Honor, I will show you how, I did not violate any rule about size of the flag because that has not been in any of their city meeting presentations in a written manner.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Mr. Reynolds, first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We call Deputy City Manager Chris Meschuk.
Mr. Meschuk, if you will unmute your microphone and then raise your right hand for me, sir. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Reynolds, when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Can you please state your name and spell your last?
Sure. My name is Chris Meschuk. My last name is spelled Meschuk.
And Mr. Meschuk, where do you work?
I work for the city of Boulder.
And what is your job title?
I serve as the deputy city manager in the city manager's office.
What are some of your duties as the deputy city manager?
As the deputy city manager, I support various departments in the city as well as the city manager and the overall administration of the city.
And how long have you been with the city of Boulder?
This year will be my 21st year at the city of Boulder.
As part of your duties, do you attend Boulder City Council meetings?
I do.
What are why do you attend those meetings?
I attend city council meetings, one, to support the city manager and the city staff in bringing forward the business that is necessary for the city council to take action on. And then I also am in attendance to support anything that is needed in the audience. For example, if there are disruptions, to be able to help support handling those.
And if you had to approximate, how many Boulder City Council meetings have you attended as a staff member?
In those 21 years, it's hundreds and hundreds probably. I would maybe share as an example, in the last few years, or since I took the deputy city manager role, of the roughly 20 to 25 business meetings that the city council holds, I probably attend 15 to 20 of those per year.
And can you tell us a little bit about what happens at a city council meeting?
A city council meeting that is a business meeting is one where the city council is conducting the business of the city and taking action on the necessary business items of passing laws or ordinances or giving direction to city staff on policy direction for the administration of the city and government operations.
And do city council meetings have agendas?
They do.
And how is an agenda for a city council meeting developed?
The agenda for a city council meeting for business meetings is has kind of a set number of categories or agenda headings. And those agendas are set by city staff and a subcommittee of the city council called the Council Agenda Committee.
Are items on an agenda for a city council meeting given a time amount?
We do. We estimate the amount of time for each agenda item on a city council agenda. The council has like a guideline or in their rules of procedure to try and limit city council meetings to roughly 4.5 hours. And so there are many times that agendas, there's more business than we can fit on one agenda. So we time them to try and make sure we're balancing filling those agendas and not going too long.
And is it important that meetings of city council kind of stay on schedule as much as possible?
It is. The kind of volume of business that we need the city council to take action on is important, and some of them are time bound. And so being able to keep meetings effective and efficient, to be able to complete all of the necessary business required is the primary driver of why we time. And there are times where we'll have to schedule an agenda item later than we would normally anticipate because meeting agendas become full.
Where do city council meetings occur?
They occur in the Penfield Tate II Municipal Building on the second floor in a room we call the City Council Chambers.
Who is allowed to attend city council meetings?
City council meetings are open meetings, so anyone is welcome to attend.
Are members of the public allowed to attend city council meetings?
Yes.
Are members of the public allowed to participate in city council meetings?
They are, and that is part of the process of decision-making in the community is that there are public hearings where community members testify in advance of the city council taking formal action. In addition, for business meetings, the city council has a item on the agenda called open comment, where anyone can come and speak to the city council about any item that is not scheduled for a public hearing that evening that is related to city business.
And if somebody participates in open comment, how much time are they allotted?
They are allotted 2 minutes.
Now I want to talk a little bit about kind of any rules that might exist to structure city council meetings. Are there rules that apply to people who are physically present in the Penfield Tate building?
There are.
And do these rules apply to everyone?
They do.
Are these rules in effect at all times that the building is open?
They are.
And are the rules that govern conduct at Penfield Tate posted anywhere in the building?
They are.
All right, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to display what's been marked as People's Exhibit 2, a copy of which has been furnished to Ms. Gonzalez. Mr. Meschuk, do you recognize People's Exhibit 2?
I do.
How is it that you recognize it?
This is a photograph of the Boulder Municipal Campus Rules of Conduct that are posted on the wall at the entrance to the Penfield Tate II Municipal Building.
And were these rules posted on March 20th of 2025?
They were.
At this time, I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 2.
Ms. Gonzalez, do you have a legal objection to the admission of Exhibit 2?
I am unsure if this is an objection since I'm not an attorney nor had the privilege to study law. But I am concerned if this is relevant since these rules are never presented before, either orally or in a written way by, I don't know if she's a clerk that usually presents these rules. She usually presents the rules of the quorum. So these are rules that are really not accessible to most of us.
So you have the right to comment about that either in closing argument or during your testimony. The only question I'm going to be resolving right now is whether there's a legal basis to prevent this evidence from coming in front of the court. Do you have any legal argument with respect to its admissibility?
I believe for me it's relevance since they are not talked about at all at City Council.
Okay. Reynolds, did you want to respond to that relevance objection?
Your Honor, the city would argue that these are fundamentally relevant to the question at hand because Ms. Gonzalez was suspended from the Penfield Tate building under Boulder Revised Code 5518, which these are a copy of.
I do find them to be relevant. I'm going to admit Exhibit 2. And I want to share with you, Ms. Gonzalez, again, which I said at the outset, the fact that an exhibit gets admitted doesn't mean that it's demonstrating anything. It's just been admitted as an exhibit. Both sides will have the opportunity to argue what it shows with respect to the issues that presented to me today. Does that make sense to you? I was just asking Ms. Gonzalez if that made sense.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, good enough. Thank you. All right, so Exhibit 2 will be admitted. You can continue, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Meschik, why are there 2 pages here?
There are 2 pages of these Boulder Municipal Campus Rules of Conduct. The one on the left is written in the language of English, and the copy on the right side of this photograph is the rules written in the language of Spanish.
How many public entrances are there to the Penfield Tate building?
There are 2, one on the north side of the building and one on the south side of the building.
Are these rules posted at both public entrances to Penfield Tate?
They are.
Is it possible for a member of the public to enter Penfield Tate and not pass a copy of these rules?
It is not possible to enter the building through either of the public entrances without passing these rules.
And is it accurate that these rules were adopted by the city manager's office on February the 19th of this year?
It is.
And then they were physically posted at the entrances the next day on February 20th?
That is correct to my knowledge.
All right, I'm going to share a different exhibit, what's been marked as People's Exhibit 3, a copy of which has also been furnished to Ms. Gonzalez. Mr. Meschik, do you recognize what I'm showing you here?
I do.
How is it that you recognize it?
This is a photograph of the entrance to the city council chambers. And I recognize this as I can walk past this where this photograph is on a regular basis when I'm here at work.
All right, I'm going to display what's been marked as People's Exhibit 4. And similarly, Mr. Meschik, do you recognize what I am showing here?
I do.
How is it that you recognize it?
I recognize this as the opposite entrance to the city council chambers with a copy of the Boulder Municipal Campus Rules of Conduct taped to the door.
At this time, I'd move for People's Exhibit 3 and People's Exhibit 4 to be admitted.
Ms. Gonzalez, do you have a legal objection to either Exhibit 3 or Exhibit 4?
Can you explain the difference between Exhibit 3 and 4? Seems like the same to me.
So I'm going to treat that as a voir dire question for Mr. Meschuk. Mr. Meschuk, can you answer that question?
I can. What we're looking at now as Exhibit 4 is there are two entrances to the city council chambers that are the public entrances. This photograph, Exhibit 4, is the south entrance to the city council chambers, and Exhibit 3 is a photograph of the north entrance to the city council chambers.
Ms. Gonzalez, any other questions regarding those two exhibits?
Not at the moment, Your Honor.
And do you have a legal objection to their admission?
No, Your Honor, just the same message as before.
Understood. Exhibits 3 and 4 will be admitted.
And I believe you answered this in voir dire, but is it possible for a member of the public to enter city council chambers and not pass a copy of these rules?
It is not possible to enter the city council chambers through either of the public entrances without passing these rules.
Thank you. I'm going to display what's been marked as People's Exhibit 5. And Mr. Meschuk, do you recognize what I'm displaying now?
I do.
How is it that you recognize it?
This appears to be a photograph zoomed in on the Boulder Municipal campus rules of conduct that are posted in the building.
Objection, Your Honor.
Yes, go ahead. Ms. Gonzalez, what's the objection?
It's irrelevance because this actually magnifies how people can actually read it on the page since the font is small. So this is not the way that we can read it if we even see that on the door.
Did you want to respond to that, Mr. Reynolds?
I could ask Mr. Meschuk a couple of follow-up questions to talk about whether or not this is printed or displayed in any sort of unusual manner.
Why don't you go ahead?
Mr. Meschuk, you've seen these rules posted, correct?
I have.
And standard font size used to post these rules?
It is a standard font size to view these rules, and they are printed on paper and currently taped to the walls.
And if an individual of normal sensitivity was within a couple of feet of these rules at the doorway to the council chambers, if they were able to read either the English or Spanish language, would they be able to see and read these rules?
I believe they would.
So, Your Honor, I would state that that essentially is my offer of proof as to how this is relevant and should overcome Ms. Gonzalez's objection.
Exhibit 5 will be admitted. You'll be able to comment at some point, Ms. Gonzalez, with respect to whether Exhibit 5 is a fair and accurate depiction of what is seen in Exhibits 3 and 4. But Exhibit 5 will be admitted.
And Mr. Meschuk, can you read number 20 on Exhibit 5, please?
Rule
Sorry,
20.
I apologize for interrupting, but could you actually read the final sentence to the paragraph at the top of Exhibit 5, the sentence that starts the following?
It says, the following is prohibited in any of the listed buildings on the municipal campus.
And now could you please read Rule 20?
I can't see what he's reading. Can you please show it?
I do believe I'm sharing my screen and displaying Exhibit 5. I'm not sure if, Your Honor, you can see it.
I can see it. Is there a way to zoom in larger in this circumstance so that Ms. Gonzalez can see, and then focusing on the first paragraph where there was reading from Mr. Meschuk.
Objection, Your Honor, because this is again the relevance piece. This is, if we have to enlarge something, how is that accessible to all? So I don't think it's relevant, especially for people that cannot see very well like me.
And I understand that. I'm admitting the exhibit for the purposes of what it's been admitted for. You'll have the opportunity to argue. I think we had it zoomed in so that, because you indicated that you couldn't see what was being provided here today.
No, it was because my screen only showed until 19. I couldn't read the bottom.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's what
I
I meant.
apologize. I thought you couldn't see what he was reading. All right. So we can go back to regular text and just scan it down so that so item number 20 is visible to Ms. Gonzalez. Okay, Mr. Meschuk, you can go ahead and read item number 20.
Rule 20 reads, any conduct that disrupts, impedes, or obstructs government operations.
Thank you. And Mr. Meschuk, is it necessary to regulate conduct of individuals who are at Penfield Tate?
It is.
And what makes you say that?
Within the Penfield Tate, the second municipal building, is a city building where government operations occur. And this building, like many of the buildings that the city has, have rules of conduct to allow the business of the city to occur in the building, and to ensure that we are protecting the health, safety, and welfare of all attendees.
In addition to rules that govern conduct of individuals at the Penfield Tate building, are there additional rules of decorum that govern conduct during city council meetings?
There are.
I'm going to display what has been marked as People's Exhibit 6, copy of which has also been furnished to Ms. Gonzalez. And Mr. Meschuk, do you recognize what I'm showing you here?
I do.
How is it that you recognize it?
I recognize this as the council rules of procedure, and specifically the chapter on the rules of decorum. The council rules of procedure are adopted by the city council, and they are published as an appendix to Title II of the Boulder Revised Code.
And is the Boulder Revised Code and its appendices available to the public through like a Google search?
They are.
I would move for Exhibit 6, People's Exhibit 6.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance, they are not easily searched through a Google search, and you can do that now.
Any other comment that you'd like to make before I rule on that objection, Ms. Gonzalez?
Just that I have a master's in physical chemistry. I am trained to be a researcher. I have written and published scientific publications. I know how to do research. And I think for a highly educated Indigenous woman to not be able to find something so quickly, it is not relevant to be considered as consistent rules for this matter.
I'm going to find that it's relevant. Whether it's something that is accessible is a different question. Although Mr. Meschuk testified that it would be accessible, that's still a question that the court would have to decide. So the issue of whether it's accessible is different than whether it's admissible. The document itself is admissible under the court's view. You will always have the right to comment on whether it's accessible and whether someone could actually access that.
Mr. Meschuk, is it necessary to regulate the conduct of members of the public during city council meetings?
It is.
And what makes you say that?
During city council meetings, those are the business meetings are to conduct the business of the city. And in order to ensure that all attending the meeting are able to fully participate in the proceedings of the meeting, as well as to ensure that all are welcome and able to engage in the meeting, the city council has adopted rules of decorum for the meeting.
I'd like to move on to the March 20th, 2025 city council meeting. Was there a city council meeting on that date?
There was.
What type of a meeting was it?
It was a business meeting of the city council.
Was there an agenda for this meeting?
There was.
And did you attend this meeting?
I did.
I'm going to display what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1, a copy of which has been furnished to Ms. Gonzalez. Mr. Meschik, do you recognize what I am displaying right now?
I do.
How is it that you recognize it?
I recognize this as a copy of the March 20th, 2025 agenda for the city council meeting. And it appears to be a printout of the agenda from the city's agenda management system.
And at this time, I'd move for People's Exhibit 6 to be admitted.
I think you called that Exhibit 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. Exhibit 1. I
Or
misspoke.
Exhibit 1, thank you. Neither one of us had it right. Ms. Gonzalez, any objection to Exhibit 1?
I would like to understand how this is relevant.
Mr. Reynolds, do you want to respond to that?
It's open to all, right? It doesn't have to do anything to do with the agenda.
Your Honor, this is relevant. It's highly relevant because it's alleged that Ms. Gonzalez disrupted, impeded, hindered a governmental operation, and it's the city's position that a city council meeting is a government operation, and this is evidence of that operation.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance because all the interruptions were during open comment, not during the actual business meetings that the city council members talked about.
You'll have the opportunity to comment on the evidence later on. I am going to admit Exhibit 1 for the purpose suggested by Mr. Reynolds.
And Mr. Meschik, I'm just going to scroll through just a few pages here of the agenda so that you can quickly look at it and review it. What were some of the things that council was going to do or was planning on doing on March 20th of 2025?
They had a number of agenda items, as we can see in this exhibit. There was a declaration that was read at the beginning of the meeting, and then open comment was held. And then they voted on several items on their consent agenda. They had one call-up item, and then they had 2 public hearings, one to consider an ordinance for a franchise, and the second to—
Objection, Your Honor. This is not relevant to what they're accusing me of interrupting.
Mr. Reynolds, do you want to respond to that?
It is highly relevant because open comment is part of a city council meeting. And so any disruption of a part of city council meeting is a disruption of the entire thing. And open comment, as you can see on People's Exhibit 1, is agenda item number 2. So any delay or disruption caused during number 2 would then cause delay to any subsequent agenda items.
Objections overruled. Exhibit, the witness can continue to answer the questions, and you may need to restate the question.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Mr. Meschik, I had asked about kind of like what city council had planned to do that night. I believe you were just talking about the call up and check-in.
Correct. They had one call-up check-in, and then they had 2 public hearings, one to grant a franchise, and the second to consider appointments to the city's boards and commissions. That was the second public hearing, and I believe that was the conclusion of all of the agenda items for that meeting.
And how long was this meeting scheduled to be for?
We estimated that this agenda would last 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Would you characterize this meeting as a pretty full meeting of city council?
Yes, I would.
Mr. Meschik, were there any disruptions during the March 20th, 2025 city council meeting?
There were.
Can you tell us about those disruptions?
There was disruptions during the open comment portion of agenda item number 2. And there were multiple disruptions and recesses that were taken during that portion of the meeting.
And from your observations, were there any rule violations committed by members of the public attending the meeting at this meeting?
There were.
Are city council meetings recorded?
They are.
And are those recordings publicly available?
They are.
And where would a member of the public be able to watch a recording of a city council meeting?
We publish a video recording of all of the meetings on the city's YouTube channel, as well as an audio recording is available upon request from the city records department.
Now I'm going to display what has been marked as People's Exhibit 7, which is that YouTube video of this council meeting. Mr. Meschuk, do you recognize what I'm displaying right here?
I do.
How is it that you recognize it?
This is the city's YouTube channel with the March 20th, 2025 City Council meeting recording on the screen.
At this time, I move to admit People's Exhibit 7 into evidence.
Ms. Gonzalez, any objection to Exhibit 7?
Not, Your Honor, as long as the whole recording is submitted.
And it will be, there may be parts that get played by one side and parts get played by the other, but once it's admitted, it can be used by either side in its entirety. Exhibit 7 will then be admitted.
I'm going to play a portion of the video and I'll pause it and then ask some questions of you, Mr. Meschuk.
Okay, we are now going to proceed with open comments. So Elisha, if you could read the public participation guideline, please.
All right, I actually just want to pause it. Mr. Meschuk, were you able to hear that?
I was.
And Ms. Gonzalez, and Your Honor, did you have any issues with the audio there?
Did not. Ms. Gonzalez, were you able to hear it?
My apologies. Can you increase the volume, please?
It's increased all the way on the YouTube application, and I can try to increase it on my computer, but you might need to increase your speakers on your computer, Ms. Gonzalez, because I'm not sure if I can control the volume entirely from where you're sitting, but I'll start to play it again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Get those up on the screen.
Let's pause for a moment. Just as Ms. Gonzalez, are you able to hear that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You can continue, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you.
I will now review the public participation at City Council meeting guidelines. The city has engaged with community members to co-create a vision for productive, meaningful, and inclusive civic conversations. This vision supports physical and emotional safety for community members, staff, and council, as well as democracy for people of all ages, identities, lived experiences, and political perspectives. For more information about this vision and the community engagement processes, we ask that you please visit our website at bouldercolorado.gov/services/productive-atmospheres. The following are examples of rules of decorum found in the Boulder Revised Code and other guidelines that support this vision. These will be upheld during this meeting. Participants are required to sign up to speak using the name they are commonly known by, and individuals must display their whole name before being allowed to speak online. Currently, only audio testimony is permitted online. Only one person at a time at the podium, unless an accommodation like an interpreter is required. All remarks and testimony shall be limited to matters related to city business. No standing in or otherwise blocking the aisles. No participant shall stand or hold items such as signs or flags in a manner that would block the view of another person. No participant shall make threats or use other forms of intimidation against any person. We ask that you not affix items to the podium or dais or walls or other surfaces of the chamber. Signs, flags, or other items used to communicate must be held by one person when displayed. Obscenity, other epithets based on race, gender, or religion, and other speech and behavior that disrupts or otherwise impedes the meeting will not be tolerated. And lastly, in-person participants are asked to refrain from expressing support or disagreement verbally or with sounds such as applause or snapping, with the exception of declarations. Traditionally, support is shown through American Sign Language applause or jazz hands. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you for listening.
Mr. Meschek, who is it that was just speaking there?
That is the city clerk, Alicia Johnson.
And what was she doing?
She was going over the public participation guidelines that we read at the beginning of business meetings or regular meetings of the city council prior to open comment.
And this sort of recitation of the public participation guidelines by the city clerk, is that something that happens at the beginning of every business meeting?
It is.
Thank you. I want to now fast forward the YouTube video. My fingers are not as dexterous at this. Okay. I'm going to play it.
I was about to go to bed, and I heard the news of Israel breaking the ceasefire and violently carpet bombing Gaza again and killing more than 400 people, mostly women and children. I saw images like this, and I couldn't stop crying, mostly because I don't know what we're not doing enough. You're doing nothing. You're doing absolutely nothing. All the opposite, you're making money out of this. You're making money out of this.
Objection, Your Honor.
Just
This doesn't
shameful.
affect my case.
You should.
Let's pause for a moment. I'm sorry, the objection, Ms. Gonzalez?
Relevance, it does not apply to the accusations against me.
Mr. Reynolds?
Well, I would first argue, Your Honor, that this has already been admitted as evidence, and so this is already part of the case. And so I would believe that it's already been determined to be relevant, and that objection now is untimely.
Objection is speculation. You can't.
Let him finish, and then you can speak.
The purpose of showing this is because you will see shortly that Ms. Gonzalez stands up and unfurls a flag and is admonished by.
Objection, Your Honor. That's not a fact. I did not stand up. And you can.
Let's let him finish speaking, and then you can speak. Go ahead, Mr. Reynolds.
Well, we will shortly see Ms. Gonzalez stand up and unfurl a flag here and be admonished by Mayor Aaron Brockett about the rules governing, conduct during city council meetings. And so there's going to be some playing of video today, but from the city's perspective, this has already been admitted, and so it's already a relevance objection is not timely.
I'm going to rule that it's relevant, not necessarily simply because it's been admitted, but because what Mr. Reynolds said in addition, which was that shortly we'll be seeing an interaction perhaps involving Ms. Gonzalez. And so I'm going to allow the playing of this video. And obviously when the entire video has been admitted, what weight I give to portions that don't apply to Ms. Gonzalez's alleged behavior will be very minimal. The only evidence that's going to be pertinent to me is the behavior of Ms. Gonzalez as it applies to the suspension. But I will allow Mr. Reynolds to continue to play the video.
To be walking out of here and say you don't want to be part of this. You don't want to be part of anything that has to do with any kind of governmental part of this country. I'm so ashamed to ever have gotten the citizenship of this country. They just kidnap people. They just kidnapped Janet Guerra, somebody that is doing things for the community. And she's on the fucking ICE detention. What are you doing? You're not even speaking up. I can't do this anymore. Like, honestly, if you think that you're not agreeing with this, stand up and walk out of here. How can you be part of this? How can you be part of this? It's just so shameful.
No holding up of signs, and those include flags, please. Also, no obstructing of aisles. So we need the standing person to move out of the way.
Honestly, like that's what you're gonna say?
We're violating the
making
fire code
money
right now,
out of
which
dead
is
children.
unacceptable.
You're having people here,
Ma'am, I need you to sit
either
down.
you're Zionists or you're
This
just
is the last warning
cowards.
before we have to recess
I'm
the
so-
meeting. Okay. This is okay. All right, let's do a recess.
Mr. Meschek, what did we just see happen? What caused that recess?
The recess was caused by a lack of adherence to the council rules of decorum in the meeting, and specifically Ms. Gonzalez standing in the aisleway holding a flag. And after repeated requests by the mayor as the presiding officer of the meeting, there was not adherence to those requests as well as a warning. And so the meeting was recessed because of those disruptions.
All right, I'm gonna fast forward here.
Bought for $139,000 of APAC money, and city council trained Shuni Joseph chairing the defense caucus at the Capitol. They're on the money escalator while Taisha.
I'm actually gonna go to a different, I'm gonna go to a different portion of the YouTube video here now. I'm gonna go all the way to 5020. With a brief stop at 4140.
Okay. So we're back in. I'm going to gavel us back into session. But I just want to let folks know that we've cleared council chambers because of repeated violations of our rules of decorum, including speaking out of turn in the gallery and holding up signs that obstruct the view of the gallery. And in addition, I wanted to say, although it was not why we cleared chambers, how unacceptable I consider it to call Jewish members of our city council Nazis.
All right, I'm going to fast forward now to 5020.
Objection to that. What was the relevance of that?
Again, you'll have a chance to argue about whether something is relevant to determine the issues that have been addressed against you. As I've stated to the parties, what I'm going to be focusing on are the issues pertaining to Ms. Gonzalez's conduct.
All right, now I'm going to play the video again.
Again, I am not here to ask you for anything. I'm actually here trying to look at the camera and make sure that the grandchildren and the descendants of Tara Weiner and Mark Wallach and every single person that comes out of them know where they stood today. during the current Holocaust that is happening today with our tax dollars or support into Caterpillar. We're investing into them. And even though we keep asking, not only do they not remain silent, but they actually make rules to silence us. Because when there were Nazis here, what did they do? They allowed the flags to cover our faces. They could bring all the messages, disgusting messages such as that almost 100,000 people that have been murdered by Israel are all Hamas, when that is not true. But you know what? Something I know, a Zionist is a Nazi, or even worse. And the funny thing about the Boulder City Council, which is almost full of settlers, they stood for apartheid for South Africa, but they don't stand for apartheid in Palestine. How funny is that? Today, Nazi Tara Weiner read the declaration about the murder of what happened in King Soopers because of the guns, but yet she is happy sending more guns to the settler colony of the state of Israel, which, by the way, should not exist because it's not real, you know? And these are the pictures that you need to look deep into. Not only did Janet Vizquera get deported, and I know you know Janet Rocket, but it was
Can
only
I pause there? I'm sorry. Can you make that bigger, Christopher? Full screen.
Let's just pause for a moment. I'm sorry. What are you asking, Ms. Gonzalez?
I can't see very well, so can you make the screen full size, Chris, please?
Is that something you can do, Mr. Reynolds?
Yes, I might have to minimize it to refer back to my notes because I'm all on one monitor, but I can do that for now.
Okay.
I'm gonna resume playing it here.
Way too quick, man. Way too quick. What a shame. Taisha Adams, I am so sorry for the misogyny that you're experiencing in this council. I really, really am. I stand with you in solidarity because what you're going through is misogyny to the full.
Your time is up. Your time is up. Your time is up. Okay. We're going to have to call another recess if you're not staying quiet. Here's the warning. All right, we're calling another recess.
All right, so I just paused it there. And Mr. Meschik, who is at the podium there?
Miss Gonzalez.
And was she participating in open comment?
She was.
And I heard kind of a buzzer go off after a while when she was speaking. What does that buzzer indicate?
That indicates that the 2 minutes of time for that speaker has concluded.
And you were present there. Did Ms. Gonzalez continue to speak and address council after her time was up?
She did.
And did the mayor give her a warning that they would have to go to recess if she continued to speak while not being recognized?
He did.
And the audio cut out pretty abruptly when the council members kind of sit up from their chairs to walk out. Is that because the room now just became silent?
No.
Why was that?
The broadcast of the city council meeting, when a recess is taken, once the mayor declares a recess, the microphones are muted, and then the meeting is switched to like a hold screen on the broadcast. So the audio cut out because the microphones turned off.
Okay, so the audio cut out because the microphone stopped, not because of the disruption stopped.
Correct.
And is it accurate that we were hearing some obscenities from Ms. Gonzalez there?
Yes.
And is it accurate that one of the things that she said was, "I don't give a fuck about your rules"?
I believe that I heard that, and if we need to, we could replay the video to confirm it, but I do recall that.
And is it also accurate that this disruption occurred after chambers had already been cleared?
That is correct.
And is it also accurate that Ms. Gonzalez was at least part of the reason why the chambers had to be cleared.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to now move on from the People's Exhibit number 7. And I'm going to display People's Exhibit number 8, copy of which has also been furnished to Ms. Gonzalez. All right, so Mr. Messer, can you see what I'm displaying right now?
I can.
And I'm just going to kind of go through some frames without playing it for a second there. Do you recognize this?
I do.
How is it that you recognize it?
I recognize this as the body camera footage from Sergeant Sterling Eckrow.
And was it the body camera footage from him during the March 20th, 2025 City Council meeting?
It is.
And about, well, at this time, I would move to admit People's Exhibit 8.
Ms. Gonzalez, any objection to Exhibit 8?
I mean, my only concern with this is that I do believe there's an objection of speculation because I am concerned that there is no previous footage, body cam footage, to be fair and neutral content about the entire audience before I arrived there because I arrived late. So I believe that there is a speculation that I'm already a criminal, which they started this body cam footage. And also I am concerned that the whole first minute of this video doesn't have any audio. So I don't think that plays to the accuracy of the video.
Allow Exhibit 8. I will give what weight I deem appropriate after I've observed the video.
And I apologize, Your Honor, is it admitted now?
It is admitted. Exhibit 8 is admitted. You can play it.
All right, I'm going to now play Exhibit 8. I do intend on playing most of this. All right, so I've played it. It doesn't have audio. I'm just going to pause it right here. Mr. Meschek, if you can see my cursor, it does appear as though someone's arm is right in front of the camera, but there's this part in the lower right-hand corner of the video. It appears to be someone standing up and holding a flag. Do you know who that is?
I do.
Who is that?
That is Miss Gonzalez.
And is this at the same time in People's Exhibit 7, that YouTube video, when Dr. Fuste was giving her open comment? Is this basically at that same time when Ms. Gonzalez stands up and unfurls the flag?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Objection, Your Honor. Isn't this a leading question?
Overruled. I'll allow leading questions from both parties with respect to this hearing. It's not a criminal case. So I'll allow some lenience with respect to the presentation of the evidence to facilitate an efficient presentation.
I'm going to continue to play it here.
Why are you going to break? Except play shadows. Oh, but look at that cyanide.
Are you kidding? This is how important decorum is?
Why not is a cyanide? You're a Nazi.
How can this be the decision?
I don't know. You spoke right, Patty. You know, I'm sorry. Say it again. Say it again.
No, they better give you your time back. Just like they do to all the scientists that come here.
And what, you have extra officers on standby in case someone cries? What's the deal here?
It's a joke.
I'm not kidding. Look outside.
It's okay. All cops are masters.
We have seen this footage. How is this relevant?
As I've said previously, Ms. Gonzalez, I'm going to allow the admission of the exhibit. It's been admitted. I will give what weight I deem appropriate, and you will have an opportunity to comment on what parts are relevant, what parts are not relevant to the determination that I have to make.
And I'm going to continue to play this video.
You may.
Year after year after year, what a cow. 2023, 2024, 2025.
I don't care.
I know you don't, but
You will not represent the majority. That is your pride purpose.
Like you reclaim that time.
Give the finger to the majority of America.
Your words are going through their minds. Your words.
Nothing's going through their
No,
minds.
listening.
They're
They're
fucking
fucking
pipelines.
They're fucking Nazis. That's what they
You
are.
are their pipelines. They're part of this fucking bullshit.
Because
They
they're
don't do
Nazis. That's
anything.
why. They're Nazis.
They're echoing. Your words are echoing.
Zionists are Nazis. It's the
They
truth.
have 2,000 people listen to it. Those 2,000 people.
And I can help you get a better job, you know?
I think everybody.
Because cops, you will listen to the man in power and you're gonna go and remove an in-house person who has not committed a crime. And you know that's true. But I'm really good at writing cover letters and resumes if you want assistance.
Thanks.
ASAP.
Yes, those for you too. You're part of this shit too, you know?
You know they don't give a fuck about you, right?
Hey, folks, the council can't come back until the room is quiet. So as soon
Well,
as the room is
maybe
quiet.
they need.
All right, I just paused it there. Mr. Meschuk, we just heard somebody speak, and I believe I heard them say something to the effect, "Hey, folks, council can't come back until the room is quiet." Who said that?
That was myself that said that.
And where were you in the room when you said this?
I was standing at the top of the stairs of the dais, just off camera from this view, facing the audience.
Okay, so would it be accurate that you're like just off to the right of the of Sergeant Equo here?
Correct.
And why did you tell members of the audience that council can't come back until there's quiet?
Because the room was not quiet and people were still speaking.
And based off of what we just saw, did you see Ms. Gonzalez being loud?
Yes.
And why is it important that loud things not happen in the audience while city council meetings are happening?
It's important for the audience to be quiet during a city council meeting unless you're being recognized to speak, so that all audience members are able to hear the city council and the proceedings of the meeting.
Is it also, could a loud noise distract the city council member from exercising their duties as policymakers of the city of Boulder?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to continue to play the video here.
I want to do objection to the relevance of the answer of Chris, of Mr. Meschuk, because that is speculating who's speaking since multiple people are speaking.
You'll have a chance to cross-examine him on that and to also offer your own evidence. The objection's overruled, but you will have that opportunity.
Okay, I'm going to continue to play the video here.
Are you also Zionist?
You want me to do something? Can you sit back?
Do you believe the state of Israel should
on
exist?
and on and on?
That's not.
Yeah, you're a Zionist.
It's not gonna help. He's just another part of the machine.
Hey, diles que te regreses, chingo. Sorry, chica, quiero escucharme.
No, pero es que me da igual, o sea, tenían todo esto preparado, pero es que da igual, ¿sabes? O sea, que no puedo más conectarme.
Sí, pero cuando regresen, pelea por tu tiempo, porque yo te interrumpí. Acuérdate que a los pinches sionistas
poder ir así, se lo está dando. Tú peleas por tu tiempo, ¿vale? I'm just an angry indigenous woman who's heard of fucking genocide from here to Palestine and everywhere in the fucking world. There's still genociding black people here. There's still genociding indigenous people here. We're reporting left and right. Like, what the fuck? And it's all because of these fucking liberal Democrats who don't do shit and just take fight for the fucking dollar. Fucking Nazis. That one's a traitor right there. It's a class traitor.
I don't want to tell you what to do, but
freedom of speech.
If it continues, and they're just going to go virtual, so
right. But First Amendment right, right?
I'm just saying, if it continues like this, they're just going to go virtual. They're going to end the meeting, and they're going to ask everybody to leave. So
no justice, no peace.
Yeah. Measures, no, that's on them.
Well, there is no justice. There will be no peace for any of them.
okay, just let you know that's what's going to happen.
We're non-violent.
I know.
Authoritarian measures, that's on them. They want to be fascist,
Folks,
that's on them.
need to have quiet groups and other people to speak and have their time to speak.
All right, I just paused it. Mr. Meschuk, we just heard, again, off camera, a little bit faintly, somebody say, folks, we're going to need quiet. Who is speaking there?
That was Mayor Aaron Brockett.
And during that time where we were just watching that video, did it appear that Ms. Gonzalez continued to speak loudly?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to continue to play the video.
So our next speakers
Am I getting my coin back? Why not? Why not?
be quiet.
Okay, I just paused it there. Did you see Ms. Gonzalez say anything right there?
I believe I did.
And what did she say?
I'd have to maybe have us replay the video to try and catch. There were two voices that I heard, and I just
I'm gonna
misquote.
rewind it once, and we'll watch it again very closely.
So our next three speakers.
Am I getting my coin back?
Yes.
Why not? Why not?
Be quiet.
Were you able to catch that?
I think I was.
And what did Ms. Gonzalez say?
I think Ms. Gonzalez was asking why not when Dr. Fuste, who's sitting next to her, was asking if she was going to get her time back.
And who did it appear that Ms. Gonzalez was addressing?
I believe she was addressing the mayor.
And was Ms. Gonzalez recognized to speak in this moment?
She was not.
So would you characterize this as a disruption?
I would.
Okay, I'm going to keep playing the video.
They interrupted me.
We're moving on to the next speaker. Ms. Deborah Evans.
Oh, but if it was Evan dos Tainer, you will work with them because you probably get paid, don't you? You?
Okay, so Mr. Meschuk, did you just see Ms. Gonzalez continuing to speak to the mayor?
I did.
Would you characterize that as a further disruption?
I would.
All right, I'm going to keep playing the video.
Boulder is a training ground for moral traitors.
Okay, I'm going to skip Mr. Avitz's portion of his open comment here.
(1972). And then we have the good Germans who sit in council seats making their next political move.
Time is up.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you,
Our
Evan.
last two in-person speakers are Jude Lansman and Andrew Bunker. We need to keep the signs at head level or below, not above your head, please. You have a sign up in the front that is above head level.
She's fine by me. She's fine by me.
You can bring that down, please. This is warning that if you not bring it down, we're going to recess the meeting. So there's the room applies to you at least. All right,
there a sign still above your head? All the recess.
We can stay here all night. We've been here for 3 calendar
You
years.
continuing to send tax dollars? This is what it's doing.
This is
You're
pathetic.
mutilating children.
Control, pathetic.
And what are you doing? And no, you're not even staying fucking silent. You're making stupid ass rules to fucking censor us because of the fucking Nazis and Wallach and Weiner here. That's right. I saw your open mouth. A Zionist is a Nazi.
Pathetic.
All right, I'm just going to pause it there. Mr. Meschik, who is just speaking there?
Ms. Gonzalez was speaking.
Was this a scheduled break for this council meeting?
No, this was a recess due to disruption.
And would you characterize what Ms. Gonzalez just did as a disruption?
I would.
Is it possible to conduct the business of the city during a city council meeting if members of the audience are shouting at city council members?
It is not.
All right, I'm gonna fast. Well, let's see.
Rules of decorum that apply to this room apply downstairs, but this time everyone needs to leave this room and head downstairs. Please, thank you.
This didn't happen.
Okay, Mr. Meschuk, I'm gonna circle with my cursor. Who's this individual here?
That is myself.
And what were you just saying?
I was just addressing the audience to let them know that due to the disruptions and the room not being quiet, that the room the council chambers had to be cleared of all individuals and that they are welcome to continue to watch the meeting downstairs in the lobby of the building where there's a video screen of real time of the meeting, but that at this time everyone had to leave the room.
And was Ms. Gonzalez's actions that day at least part of the reason why the chambers had to be cleared?
It was.
All right, now I'm going to fast forward again.
Order.
He said he's going to run away.
How do you think black people?
I was a little bit too. All right, I'm going to play it from about 14:18.
Justice over order.
I just heard somebody shout justice over order. Mr. Meschuk, do you know who shouted that?
I believe Ms. Gonzalez did.
And thank you. I'm going to keep playing the video.
How do you think black people got some rights? It wasn't because they were fucking following the rules.
Okay. And then I just heard somebody say, how do you think black people got their rights? It wasn't because they were following the rules. Who said that?
I believe Ms. Gonzalez did.
Is that level of noise acceptable to bring city council back in and resume the meeting?
It is not. We're in the process at this point of trying to get everyone to leave the room.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward a little bit more.
Folks, I do need to head downstairs.
All right. And so is it accurate that you just addressed the remaining members of the public and let them know that they needed to head downstairs?
That is correct.
And is that the first time they were asked to leave the room?
It was not.
And then I'm going to fast forward.
Taxpayer, Laura Gonzalez.
Got it. Oh, so you were signed up virtual, but you're in person?
Yes,
Got it.
and I spend my gap.
All right. And Is it also accurate that Ms. Gonzalez is one of the 2 remaining people sitting in council chambers?
It is.
And this is approximately 8 minutes after you had announced that everyone needed to leave?
It is.
I'm going to stop sharing People's Exhibit 8. Mr. Mestrick, Ms. Gonzalez has stated that her First Amendment rights have been violated by the city of Boulder. Are you aware that she's been able to participate in open comment at subsequent city council meetings after being suspended from the Penfield Tate building?
I am.
And was that on April the 3rd?
It was.
At this time, I don't have any other questions for Mr. Mestrick.
Okay, Ms. Gonzalez, now it is your opportunity, if you choose to do so, to ask questions of Mr. Mestrick. Just questions for him, though, not an argument back and forth. You'll get a chance to testify as well if you disagree with what the answers are that you get from him. But you can ask him questions at this time.
Absolutely, Your Honor, but due to one of my accommodations for my disability is my attention span, so I definitely need a break.
Oh, do you want to take a few minute break?
Please, I would really appreciate 10 minutes.
I second that request.
That's fine. Okay, why don't we take a 10-minute break? We'll come back here at 3:40. That'll be more like 13 minutes, and then we'll see everybody. We'll get started with cross-examination.
I appreciate that. See you
Sure.
soon.
Okay, I'll go off And it's still a moment before 3:40, but I wanted to just check in and see if we're ready to get started. If everybody's ready, we can start. If not, we can wait another moment or two.
I am here, Your Honor. Just give me one quick minute to look something up.
That's fine.
Okay, I didn't find it. It's okay.
Okay, so just to be respectful of everybody's time, Ms. Gonzalez, we had talked yesterday about perhaps going as long as 4:30, but you weren't even sure if that was going to be a good time to stop for you. Is 4:30 still going to work as far as our stop time?
I don't think I can make it that far. Or
Okay.
ideal.
We could stop earlier. We're not going to finish the case. So if you're thinking a little bit earlier, that's why I'm checking in. Do we want to stop at 4:15, allow ourselves to have about a few minutes to talk about the next hearing and then get you on your way?
Yes.
Okay, so if I can ask our clerks just to get my attention if I'm not, but I've got a clock in front of me. So we will stop promptly at 4:15. Whether you'll be finished with your cross-examination or not, we'll stop then. And so just go ahead and begin, and I'll just let Mr. Meschuk know you're still under oath. Ms. Gonzalez, it's now your opportunity to ask questions.
Okay, hello, Mr. Meschuk. On March 20th, 2025, do you recall the time that I arrived in the chambers?
I do not recall the time that you arrived at the meeting.
Christopher Reynolds, can you play the video, please?
And are you referencing the YouTube video, Ms. Gonzalez?
Actually, I'm referencing it to the body cam footage because that shows it.
Okay, so that's exhibit 8. Let's see here.
And Ms. Gonzalez, you'll just have to let Mr. Reynolds know where to start and stop.
So I'm at the 000 mark of the video here. Do you have a timestamp that you would like me to? And would you like me to play it right now?
From 0, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you can pause. Sorry, you can go back to when I'm arriving.
About there, is that right?
Yeah. Can you recognize that person, Mr. Meschuk?
In the upper left side of the video.
Yes.
I believe that is you, Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Meschuk. Do you know where I came from?
I do not.
Okay. And I understand that, but I had just arrived into the chambers for your information.
I'm going to object to that being testimony.
Sustained, you can only ask questions right now, so you can't offer other information. When you testify, if you testify, you can offer that information.
Can you explain the difference? I don't understand.
Yeah, right now you said something to the effect of, for your information, I just arrived. I can't consider that because that's not sworn testimony. All you can do is ask him questions. At some point, you can certainly offer your own testimony, but since you're not sworn and subject to cross-examination, I can't consider statements that you make to Mr. Meschuk, only questions, answers that he gets to the questions that you ask.
Okay, fair enough. I understand. Okay. Mr. Meschuk, would you say that the body cam footage started, is this the entire body cam footage, or do you know if it was edited?
I do not know if this was edited.
Okay. So this can you determine when the body cam footage started?
If we are able to rewind the video, I'm happy to read the timestamp at the top of the video.
Please do.
The timestamp that I see at the top of the video is 1813, and in other words, 6:13 p.m.
Okay, please keep playing until I show up in the camera, in the picture. Right there, stop. What? It was a couple seconds before, but what is the times that Mr. Meschuk that I come into the picture?
The timestamp that we see in the video right now with you in the picture is at 18:14 and 2 seconds.
Okay. Well, actually, I think, oh, that's the time, the minutes, right? Okay. So that looks like 20 seconds, right? So the camera started 20 seconds before I came into the picture.
I didn't do the exact math of the time delta, but it was probably approximately in that range.
Right. What communication do you have police officers about recording body cam footage?
Can you repeat the question for me?
So to the best of your knowledge, at what point are officers allowed or must start recording body cam footage?
I don't know the answer to that question.
So would you say that you don't know that they are supposed to have it on at all times, or do they just turn it on based on whatever they think they should turn it on?
I don't know what the policy is on body camera footage and when it's turned on. I'm sorry.
Okay. Are you aware of how long have police officers been doing the body cam footage in the chambers?
I do not know how long officers have been wearing body cameras in the city council chambers.
Okay. Okay. When were I'm trying to make the difference because there is a difference with the rules. When were the rules of conduct posted? Which date?
And when you say rules of conduct, do you mean the Boulder Municipal Campus rules of conduct?
What's the other option?
The council rules of decorum.
No. I know the difference. So yes, so just moving forward, FYI, I'm gonna start referring to the Boulder Municipal blah 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 as rules of conduct and rules of decorum as the other ones, just so we're clear, both of us. Are we clear on that? So I can clarify my question? Okay.
I understand.
When were the rules of conduct posted in the building?
The rules of conduct were last amended on, I believe it was February 19th. And they were posted, to my understanding, the next day. The updated rules were posted the next day on the walls.
I guess, when were the rules of conduct posted for, like, to the best of your memory for the very first time?
I do not know that date off the top of my head.
Would you say that there were rules of conduct posted before February 19, 2025?
Yes.
Do you have evidence of that?
I'm gonna object to the relevance of him having evidence of previous rules that were posted. I don't see how that's relevant.
Ms. Gonzalez, you want to respond to that objection?
I definitely don't want you to accept that objection because I believe that my point is that these rules were not posted before and they are inconsistent. So it is very important that we have the history of the rules so we can compare of how they change, how quickly they update it, and let the public know.
Why is it relevant to the determination of what occurred in violation of the rules in March of 2025?
Because I was not aware of those rules when I walked in late into the chambers.
But why is the prior posting relevant to you, whether or not you were put on notice on March 20th of 2025?
Because I think for accessibility reasons, it is important that if we are supposed to abide by rules, we should be able to have access to them. I believe rules must be accessible so we can follow them, right?
I don't disagree with that. I'm just questioning why it would matter what was posted before versus what was posted on February 20th.
Because someone who is neurodivergent and unfortunately is late to a lot of the council meetings, I don't get to see those written rules there, and I don't believe that I had ever seen them before February 20. I don't recall that.
I'm going to overrule the objection, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because what's relevant to me was the rules that were posted on the date in question of March 20th of 2025 and whether those were posted such that a reasonable person would have access to those rules. So you can answer the question if you know the answer, Mr. Meschuk, and if not, I'll ask you to move on, Ms. Gonzalez, because there's not much else that could be offered.
There have been municipal campus rules of conduct prior to the latest update. The exact date I do not know, but it is in the timeframe of years.
So you would say it's been at least over 2 years that they've been posted?
I don't know the exact time frame off the top of my head, but it's been years. I just can't quantify how many.
Years, yeah. That's a good answer. Thank you. What is the difference between the rules of conduct and the rules of decorum? Please explain.
The rules of conduct for the Boulder Municipal Campus are rules of conduct for behavior inside of the buildings. The city council rules of decorum are in the rules of procedure for the city council and apply in meetings that the city council has.
Okay. So I'm curious, why are the rules of decorum not posted next to the rules of conduct, especially because they seem to be more specific to what behavior you allow or not?
The Boulder Municipal Campus rules of conduct, in other words, the rules of for the building are posted for everyone who enters the building. There are other governmental operations that occur in the building in addition to city council meetings, and the rules of decorum for meetings apply only to the city council.
Okay, so you can confirm that the rules of decorum are only applied to the city council meeting and to or open comment.
The city council rules of decorum apply to city council meetings.
Okay. Can you explain, please, Mr. Mishuk, if those rules are they're less vague than the rules of conduct? Can you explain why they're not posted in the entrance of the chambers?
The city council rules of decorum are applicable to city council meetings. There are other meetings that happen inside the city council chambers, such as board and commission meetings and other public meetings. So the room is a multi-purpose room that is used by more than just the city council.
Understood. Is there a scheduled, like, is there a scheduled out city council meetings that you know when they were gonna happen?
Yes.
Okay. To make it, to make it more accessible and also to remind folks of what the rules are, isn't it important to post them?
I believe that the rules are available to the public as they are published online in the Boulder Municipal Code in the appendix to Title II.
Okay. Can I submit something as evidence, Your Honor, for this answer?
If you want to ask him questions about it, but remember what I said at the outset, if there's evidence that's going to be submitted,
Yes.
someone has to lay foundation for what it is. It would have to come from this witness while he's on the stand. But if you have something that you think he can identify, you could offer it.
Okay. Mr. Mesha, can you define accessibility?
Objection, relevance.
It is very relevant.
It does call for a legal conclusion as well. Ultimately, as the trier of fact and the one who's going to have to determine the legal principles that get applied, it will be up to me to decide issues, for example, definitions of accessibility and whether something is accessible or not accessible. So I'm going to sustain the objection. That doesn't mean that you can't raise the issue with the court as to whether the rules of conduct or the rules of decorum are accessible to the public. It just, I can't have a definition from someone who is a witness and not a person that's deciding the legal issue, which is actually me. So this is the objection sustained.
Okay. So I remember you mentioned that there was an amendment of the rules in January 2025 and June 2024. Is that correct?
To the council rules of decorum.
That's what I wanted to go over, if you can clarify that, because you mentioned that the posted rules were amended in February. So the rules were last amended in February. Is that correct? Rules of conduct?
The Boulder Municipal Campus rules of conduct were amended last in February of 2025.
And before that, when were they last amended?
I don't know if I know that date off the top of my head.
Okay. What about the rules of decorum?
The city council, I don't know the exact date that the section on rules of decorum were last amended off the top of my head.
Okay. Mr. Meshach, how do you expect someone to know the rules if they arrive late and they have not been in the chambers to read those rules? The rules of conduct.
The rules of conduct for the Boulder Municipal Campus are published and posted in the building at both public entrances as well as the entrances to the city council chambers.
So that does not answer my question. Can you answer my question? How do you expect someone who is late, to know the rules if they're walking in late into somewhere and they missed the tiny font posted on the door that's actually open? It's not even facing you, right? Is that correct? When you walk in, the door is open?
The Boulder Municipal Campus rules of conduct are posted at both public entrances to the building on the north side and the south side.
That's not the question. That's not the question. How do you expect someone who walks in and the door's open to know that there are rules posted?
Any member of the public that enters the municipal building walks past the rules at the public entrance, at the vestibule, downstairs, as well as passing them at either entrance of the city council chambers. So they're posted in two locations if you are walking to the city council chambers.
Okay, is a 12 font size readable for all humans that go into that building?
I don't think I can testify to the exact font size of what's posted on the wall, but I do believe that anyone walking in can easily stand and read the rules of conduct that are posted on the walls in the building.
At what high level are those rules posted?
My recollection is that they're posted at approximately eye level.
Okay, eye level for someone that's not in a wheelchair.
I do not know the exact height, so I was referring to eye level of someone who was standing.
Right, so you would say that they're not accessible for someone in a wheelchair.
I'm going to object to the relevancy of this line of questioning. This is just not a fact at issue in this case, and we are wasting our time going down this line of questioning.
Sustained, but let me make a brief comment. If it pertains to you in particular, Ms. Gonzalez, then it would be relevant. If you didn't enter or exit through a wheelchair, then that wouldn't be relevant to this issue for the court. So sustained on that ground.
Okay. Mr. Meshuk, to the best of your knowledge, how does the city council, who promises to be inclusive and accessible to all, how do they provide these rules in a way to neurodivergent people so they can catch their attention and make sure they read them?
Which rules are you referring to?
I'm still in rules of conduct. I haven't got into the rules of the quorum, but we're still in rules of conduct.
The Boulder Municipal Campus rules of conduct apply to the physical building and people who are entering the building itself.
I'm going to interrupt you, Mr. Meshuk, because that's not the question. My question is, how does the city council, and the city in general, to the best of your knowledge, make sure that these rules of conduct posted are accessible to neurodivergent people like me? How can you get someone's attention of someone who has a cognitive disability?
The rules that are posted in the building for the rules of conduct are posted at both entrances so that they are accessible to all who walk into the building.
That's not true. That's not the question.
I'm going to object to that being testimony.
Part of that's not true is it won't be considered as evidence. I'll sustain the objection to that account. And it may be that Mr. Mescher can't answer that question that you're asking, but you can ask it again. And if he can't answer it, he's just going to need to say that he can.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Meshuk, it sounds like you know or you believe, in your opinion, right, that the current posted rules are accessible for all.
The rules of conduct that
should have access to read them.
I'm going to object to the Ms. Gonzalez continuing to interrupt Mr. Meschuk as he answers.
All right, let's ask the question again and then let him answer. Sustained.
My apologies about that. I just thought that if, I thought if someone's not or deviating the question, it's important to clarify. So I apologize. I won't do that moving forward. I will wait and clarify again. Appreciate that. I'm learning.
It's all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Meshuk, based on the information you're giving me, I am understanding that the way that you're currently posting the rules of conduct are accessible to every single human that passes by them, elderly, anyone. Is that correct?
They are posted on the walls at the entrances of both the north and south entrance, as well as at the entrances to the city council chambers.
In your personal opinion, are they accessible to all?
Objection, relevance. It doesn't matter what Mr. Meschuk's personal opinion is about the accessibility of these rules.
Sustained. It calls for a legal conclusion, and that'll be for me to decide.
I'll move on. Okay, Mr. Meshuk, what is the name of the person that introduces the rules? I know it's multiple people, but the one that usually does it more often in the last year.
Just to make sure I'm understanding your question, are you referring to the
rules of the quorum,
the public participation guidelines that are read at the beginning of each meeting?
Yes.
On March 20th of 2025, the public participation guidelines were read by the city clerk, Alicia Johnson.
Alicia, right?
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Meshuk. Okay. Does the county clerk present the rules of conduct verbally or in her presentation before open comment?
Yes.
She presents the rules of conduct?
She presents the public participation guidelines.
My question is if she introduces the rules of conduct explicitly.
I believe that what the slide and the script that she said is that those public participation guidelines are examples of those found in the rules of the rules of decorum for city council meetings.
Right, the rules of decorum, but I'm asking, does she introduce and present the rules of conduct to the public before public comment?
She does not.
Can you tell me why?
She gives a summary of the public participation guidelines. And on the second slide, it gives a summary of examples of things that are found in the rules of decorum.
Okay, so based on your answer, is it correct that I'm understanding that Alicia, the county clerk, on March 20th did not introduce rules of conduct before public comment?
Are you, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Are you referring to the city council rules of decorum that are in the appendix of Title II of the Boulder Revised Code?
Let me can I clarify?
Please.
Yes, please.
Okay, so based on what I'm listening, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly. Is it true? Is my understanding correct? So what I'm understanding from what you're saying is that Alicia did not present the rules of conduct during her rules of decorum participation guidelines. Is that correct? Explicitly.
I'm not sure which rules you're referring to when you're asking the question.
That's okay. Christopher,
Let me try and ask the question just so I can, Mr. Meshach, I think she's asking the rules of conduct as opposed to the rules of decorum. Does Ms. Johnson go over the rules of conduct before the open comment begins?
The city clerk, Ms. Johnson, does not read the Boulder Municipal Campus Rules of Conduct before a city council meeting, no.
Okay, in my case, as I arrived late, how would you expect me to know those rules of conduct if I don't get to read them? Or anyone else for that?
I'm going to object to the relevancy of Mr. Meschik's expectations of Ms. Gonzalez's knowledge of the rules if she's running late. That's just not a relevant piece of information that Mr. Meschik can provide to court.
Sustained, and I'll just, let me guide you a little bit, Ms. Gonzalez. What it seems that you're trying to do is identify that there's problems with respect to your ability to understand. You'll have the right to even testify to that effect if you'd like, and make argument to that effect, but it's really not up to Mr. Meschik to indicate why or why not some legislative body believes that something is accessible or not accessible, or that you'd be able to understand or not understand it. It's not. So I'm going to sustain the objection, but I want to make sure you understand. You still have the opportunity to argue that and even testify about your own ability to understand what was given, but it's not for Mr. Meschik to testify on that particular fact.
Understood, but can we get it on the record that Mr. Meschik did just testify that the rules of conduct were not presented at all?
Yeah, I think he did testify to that.
Okay, good. I'll move on. Can you explain, so Mr. Meschik, in your 20 years of being there, have the rules of conduct ever been presented by the city clerk?
The Boulder Municipal Campus Rules of Conduct?
Yes, just FYI, rules of conduct, I am referring to that always.
Yeah, in my recollection, I do not believe that I have ever seen the city clerk read the Boulder Municipal Campus Rules of Conduct at a city council meeting.
And I understand now that I cannot ask you why, even though I wish I knew, because that would make more sense. But what is the main difference between, sorry, just give me 1 second. Mr. Meschik, based on my suspension letter, it seems I've been accused that I violated the rules of conduct. Would you say that the rules of conduct is what the city council uses to call recession and suspension?
No, I would not.
Okay. Can you explain what rules they use to do recess and suspension? And actually define both.
Objection compound question, one question at a time.
Sustained. Can you just break that down to perhaps the first question and restate that first question and let him answer that, and then you can answer that. Ask the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you for your guidance here. Okay. So you just confirmed that the rules of decorum are the ones that the city council bases to call recess and suspension. Is that correct?
The city council rules of decorum are used for ensuring that there is decorum in the city council meetings. And that is separate and different from the Boulder Municipal Campus rules of conduct, which are related to the building itself.
Okay. Can you tell me the basis when recess is called?
Recesses are called when there are disruptions to the city council meeting, and when the presiding officer of that meeting is typically requesting that someone adhere to the rules of decorum or adhere to the instructions of the presiding officer of the meeting. And if those instructions are not followed and the disruption continues, that is when I have typically seen that the presiding officer will call a recess for the meeting.
Thank you. What about a suspension?
Suspensions are administered by the city manager, and they are related to violations of the Boulder Municipal Campus rules of conduct. So the city council doesn't have a role in building suspensions. It is a decision of the city manager.
Okay. Mr. Meshuk, I was accused and suspended because it is claimed that I violated Rule 10 and 20. Are you familiar with Rule 10?
I am.
Okay. Can you please read Rule 10?
Why don't we put it up on the screen just so we can all see it at the same time?
That would be great. Thank you.
Christopher, do you do that, or do I?
Yes, I can do it. Just beg your patience here for a moment while I find the correct exhibit.
And I'll point out we should probably be looking to wind up for the day here in a few moments, just so we're meeting our time deadlines.
All right, so I'm now displaying what has been marked as People's Exhibit. I think it's 5. This would be 5. Okay.
So rule number 10 reads jeopardizing the health, safety, or welfare of any person.
Right. The reason why I was accused of this, there was 3 accusations. I only had 1 that violated this rule. And it's just because I was holding up a flag in a manner that blocks the view of others and fire code access to a walkway. How does holding a flag jeopardize the health, safety, or welfare of any other person?
By holding a flag and standing in an aisleway, the mayor in the meeting requested that you take a seat and not block the aisleway. And that request was made multiple times. And when it was not then adhered to, the standing of in the aisleway was then a violation of rule number 10 for jeopardizing the health, safety, or welfare of any person by blocking an aisleway, which is used for fire access in the room.
Are there other aisleways that accessible to all where I stood?
There are other aisleways in the building or in the room, But the specific instruction from the presiding officer of the meeting was that you were obstructing an aisleway and you were blocking the aisleway in violation of the fire code.
Okay, our hallways are considered by like fire codes. Are they consistent? Do they change from time to time, or are they always the same?
I am
I'm
not
gonna
a
object to like a foundation that this witness would have personal knowledge of in depth of the fire code.
I think he just answered the question and said he doesn't know, so you'll have to live with that answer, Ms. Gonzalez.
Okay. I mean, I believe to the best of my knowledge that fire code access doesn't change, right? Based on the firefighters.
Objection, this is testimony.
Sustained.
That's fine. Can you play that video? Do you recall other people standing in the exact same spot as I did, Mr. Meshuk?
I think it'd be, if we want to pull up the video, we could look at it.
Let's do that.
Are we talking about the body worn camera video or the YouTube video?
The body worn camera, because the YouTube does not show that, I think.
And just let me say it's 4:15 now. Ms. Gonzalez, you're probably the one that's most interested in ending. So if you want to finish this area of testimony, you can, but I just didn't want to delay too long. But if you want to follow through with this and then stop when you're done, we can have our conversation about in their next court date.
I appreciate Your Honor. This is the last thing for now.
This is Exhibit 8.
Just give me 1 second. I have the time here. Okay, can you go to minute 8:23:30?
And Ms. Gonzalez, are you using the timestamp on like the slider or on the upper right
The
hand?
time on the upper right. So actually go exactly to 18:23:31. We don't have to play the video, just the shot. Or maybe a little bit before. Okay, right there's fine. Mr. Meshuk, is the person there, sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned names. Is the person standing there in a similar spot as I was standing?
They are. I'm not sure what portion of, if the meeting is in session or is in recess at this point in the video, but there is, in the image that I see here in the video, there is someone standing up.
Okay, let me get clear. So what I'm understanding, and confirm if I'm wrong, is that fire code does not apply when we're in recess?
I don't think I could answer that question. To my knowledge, the fire code would apply at any time anyone was in the building.
That's what I would think too. So based on that, can you say if that person is in the fire code hallway?
I don't think I'm an expert enough in the fire code to be able to say yes or no.
But is there a person standing in a very similar spot as I was, Mr. Meshuk?
I do see someone in this still image of the video standing in front of the seats in the city council chambers.
Okay, thank you. Can you put 18:24:38, please, Mr. Reynolds? Okay, right there. Do you see a person like standing kind of like going to the middle hallway, where we used to have the podium and it was moved for bias reasons? Can you see someone like walk? If you want, why don't you rewind it 5 seconds, Mr. Reynolds, and play it? Just 5 seconds. 32. Yeah, 33 is fine.
All right, I'm playing the video.
Maybe a little bit more. I'm sorry. Maybe like at 24:30. More.
Is it here or more?
Well, do you see someone standing in that middle hallway? You know how there's like front seats and then you have the back permanent seats. Is there someone standing in that middle hallway, Mr. Meshuk?
I do see someone standing
Thank you.
right just to the left of the sign that is being held up.
Thank you. Is that considered a fire code access?
Again, I'm not an expert on the fire code, so I probably can't testify to the exact details of the fire code itself.
Do you recall why the podium got moved from the middle to the right? Why that rule of decorum changed?
I don't believe, based on my recollection, that there is anything in the rules of decorum related to the location of the podium.
Okay. To the best of my recollection, it was based on that hallway consider a fire code access. And
Objection testimony. Also, I'm gonna, well,
can you go to 1828-26, please, Mr. Reynolds? Okay.
would you like me to play it or?
No. Mr. Meshach, how many community members do you see standing in the hallways?
I'm going to object to this line of questioning. I don't see how it's relevant here.
I can explain.
Why is it relevant, Ms. Gonzalez?
It's relevant because these folks did not get suspended nor treated the same way as I did based on standing in a fire code access of what I got accused of. And like I mentioned before, right, fire code access, it shouldn't just be applied because our city council meeting, it should be applied during recess at any time because that's life or death situation.
I'll overrule the objection. Let's keep it brief because it's not nearly as relevant or pertinent to me as the other issues regarding your conduct, but certainly give you the opportunity to demonstrate this particular fact.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm not saying, what I'm trying to say is that, like I said, the rules are being applied unjust and not in a fair manner, which is why I think this is
Objection.
very.
This is argument and or testimony.
Sustained. I'm allowing the admissibility, so you can play the video if you choose to play it, and if you want to ask a question, you can ask the question.
Well, I do have to get going, so should we schedule out?
If you're wanting to stop now, let's go ahead and do that, and just kind of mark yourself so you can remember where we've left off, and then we will resume the case at another date. But let's go ahead and see if we can find a date. I know that Mr. Meschuk is not available tomorrow, so we'll be looking into next week.
Mr. Reynolds, is that your only witness?
Let's go off the record for this, because what we're going to be doing now is just scheduling, and we don't need to be on the record for scheduling. Okay, so yes, I think the question for you, Mr. Reynolds, is Mr. Meschuk going to be the only witness that you call?
Yes. Depending on if Ms. Gonzalez decides to present a case, we would reserve the right to call a rebuttal witness, but Mr. Meschuk is our only witness in our case in chief.
When he says case in chief, he means he's going to present Mr. Meschuk's testimony and then he's going to rest. And then during your case, if you create something that he needs to rebut, that he needs to come back to, which is allowed to in a civil proceeding, he can come back with rebuttal evidence, and that may be an additional witness. But for Mr. Meschuk, and for Mr. Reynolds' case in chief, which he'll rest on, that will be it.
Okay.
So as far as next week goes, I think what I heard when you were here yesterday, Ms. Gonzalez, from Mr. Meschuk is he's available next week, and Mr. Reynolds suggested that he might be, and I'm looking at the court's calendar. The 14th we have time, that's Monday, we would have time, but we have about from 3 o'clock on, we could do the 14th, very similar on the 15th, we could do from 3 o'clock on the 16th, which is Wednesday. I would need to just double check to make sure that I don't have anything specific scheduled for that afternoon, but we would probably have availability from 2 o'clock on the 16th. So tell me which of those three dates might work for you, for all the parties here. And then I will go check my work calendar. This is just the docket calendar, so I don't have my work calendar here easily accessible.
Thank you for your flexibility, Your Honor. For me, honestly, it would be best on Tuesday, April 15th.
Tuesday, the 15th, starting at 3 o'clock.
Yes, Your
The,
Honor.
and that's okay with me, just given the fact that, but if we start at 3 o'clock, it's possible that I can stay late, but I won't have clerks staying late that day. But Mr. Ogden is my clerk. He's giving me the heads up. He'll find a way. That's what
I would
he's saying.
I would need to be done by 4 o'clock on that day.
That doesn't give it, that's not really a good use of time then to have one hour.
Yeah, I can't. So
we're now to the 14th and the 16th. And then I'm also looking at the 17th at 3 p.m. It's conceivable that we could do the 18th, which is Friday. That pushes us out a little further, and I'm trying to expedite this so that you'll have a ruling, Ms. Gonzalez, sooner rather than later. But the 18th of that morning is a staff meeting, which means I could conduct a hearing in this courtroom and our staff could meet elsewhere. And so we have more flexibility on the 18th. We have a potential jail docket that day at 10:30. But that's a possibility.
I can do the 17th because I also would like to get this resolved.
So the 17th, if we were to schedule the 17th at 3 p.m., and let me just look at the 3 hearings that are scheduled. They all look to be just dispositions. So it would be approximately 3 p.m. I might be just finishing up with the 2:30 docket, but they are just dispositions, so they shouldn't be lengthy. And I think we will be done by 3 p.m. So how does the 17th look for you, Mr. Reynolds, and for Mr. Meschik to come back?
well, it looks like it works for my schedule. Mr. Meschik would only be available until 4:30 on the 17th. So, I mean, that would give Ms. Gonzalez 90 minutes of additional cross-examination, which I would say is more than sufficient since we've already done a decent amount.
I would, just from my experience, I would think, are you more than halfway done with your questions for Mr. Meschik, Ms. Gonzalez?
A little bit less than halfway, but yes.
Okay, I think we can, if we're close to halfway, I think that's right. If we were to start right at 3 p.m., and if you can all be ready a little bit before in case we do finish up with that other docket, we can get started earlier, knowing that Mr. Meschik has to leave at 4:30 on the 17th. And then I will be, should we want to go over and work later, I certainly can make some accommodation for that. My preference would be for us to plan that to go a little bit over, but I also note for everybody's just information, that is also a city council meeting night, and I don't want people to have to miss something that's important to them for us to go over, but I'm willing to do that, and I could make some accommodation to meet that and stay late, and we could probably work it out so we have staff, or I can handle things as well, Greg. I don't necessarily have to have staff here, but does anybody have a position with respect to going beyond 4:30 with other testimony? Because Mr. Meschik would leave, but we would still allow, if people rested, if you decided to testify, Ms. Gonzalez, we would begin at least your testimony that day.
That works for me.
I don't have any limitations.
Okay, so we're going to reschedule this hearing for 3 p.m. on April 17th with the expectation that we may go beyond 4:30, but also just encourage you, Ms. Gonzalez, to be aware that Mr. Meschik would have to leave at 4:30, and if he has to and you haven't completed your cross-examination, so be it. We'll come back on another time, but if you are able to complete it, then we can keep going with the rest of the case, which could be your testimony if you choose to give it, or witnesses that you might call. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, then I will see you all on April 17th at 3 p.m.
Have a good rest of your evening.
All right, thank you, everyone. We'll go off the record and close up the meeting.